Today I quit my job of 6 years, effectively cancelling my boss vacation plans. Reddit, what stories of instant karma do you have? I'm a ducking terrible storyteller, but alright, I'll go first. I've worked at the same company for over 6 years. I was a loyal, good employee with a perfect track record. Over the 6 years I've only called in sick twice. I had the best results, the least amount of errors on paperwork in the whole region and quite possibly the whole country. My new boss decided that that wasn't enough. He minimized my hours, they get a bonus to keep labor low, expanded my workload, and never had anything nice to say. He seemed to think ruling with an iron fist is the way to go about this. Even after all this, I'm the one who kept his head above water, fixing his errors along the way. So today I resign my position with immediate effect, which in terms cancelled his vacation plans for next week. On top of that, there is no one to fill my position. As soon as I mouthed the words, "I quit," you could see the terror in his eyes. He realized how ducked he was without me, and tried to do whatever he could to keep me for at least another week. I've never felt such a sense of instant karma as today. I never meant to cancel his vacation, but I wasn't going to put his needs before mine. I have bills to pay. I'd feel bad about it if he wasn't such a donk. But he's a donk. So Reddit, what amusing, funny or bizarre stories of instant karma do you have to share? My first job out of high school was working for a rather famous nationwide guitar store chain. At first I thought it would be fun, getting to be around guitars all day and talk music with fellow musicians. Turns out I was wrong. That 10-hour shifts 5 to 6 days a week while listening to slightly too loud overhead music, and 14-year-olds play the first 5 bars of Crazy Train, over and over and over again, wasn't actually all that great. But I stuck it out. I needed money, and I have one of those don't quit ever attitudes. When I got hired, the store was in serious trouble. They had recently fired a huge chunk of the staff for skimming profits and selling pot out of the warehouse. Their numbers were really low, and corporate is breathing down their necks. But, as it turns out, I have a penchant for selling stuff that I know about. I was the accessories guy, and got really good at it. I was routinely rolling $30,000 or better a month out the door, and the most expensive thing I had in my department was only $500. I also had one of the lowest return rates on the West Coast, and a file with several letters from happy customers, saying how much help I had been. Eventually, the store's numbers improved, especially my department. Eventually, we were number 1 for our district, and number 3 on the West Coast, behind Hollywood and San Francisco. However, none of that mattered to the GM, or anyone from corporate. All they wanted was more from me. My numbers had to be better every month, or I'd get yelled at. I was written up for having a low sales month one January because I went on vacation. I would get daily emails and phone calls from the district and regional managers, demanding to know why I hadn't hit XXX dollars in sales yet. My hours got bumped up to the point where my days consisted of sleeping, showering, eating, and working. I had zero social life. My girlfriend at the time would go weeks without seeing me. Eventually, because of the stress, I developed a ulcer. So I decided to quit. I threw myself into my last month, which just happened to be December, the month all retail workers hate. I worked extra hours, sold as much as I could, contacted old customers, you name it. Blew everyone out of the water, rolling just shy of $80,000 in gear. My boss called me into his office and said I was doing a good, not great, good job, and to keep it up. I pointed to the sales numbers screen, pointed out how well I had been doing, and how well liked I was by the customers, and asked for a raise. He laughed and said no. So I handed him my resignation letter. 2 weeks later I was done, and starting classes in college, something I'd had to put off since work wouldn't allow me to cut hours for school. I came back to the store a couple months later, as someone who had worked with me called, and said they'd found a jacket of mine in the warehouse. When I showed up, the GM wasn't there. I asked, and what I was told was that apparently, corporate had noticed me, and when my GM had failed to retain me, they'd fired him. Also, That department went from number 1 to number 9 in the district, out of 11 stores. The district managers were scrambling to recover, a few got demoted because of how things panned out, and the extreme higher-ups were not happy that the district was in such a state. I laughed the laugh of the vindicated. TLDR, quit the evil empire. People got fired or demoted because of it, and I had a good belly laugh over it. 2 regions of my company merged into one. The manager of the other region was a complete donk. He was about 5 feet 2 and walked around like he had something to prove. He treated all my employees like garbage, and made them feel as though the reason they were choosing the other site over ours was because of the quality of work, when in reality they got tax breaks in the other state. Our numbers were far better in every category. But their labor was cheaper, and that is what mattered to the company. They gave my employees 4 months notice. At first they all thought it was a good thing, so they could get paid while looking for another job. Nope. He made their lives absolutely miserable. He doubled their quota much higher than his own region, cut commissions down by 40%, and made weekly visits chewing me and the other sales manager out for not hitting the new goals, and that there was absolutely no excuse. 1 month, the second to last month, we hit the new goal, not for him, to get our employees paid finally, and he then reamed us out, because of the amount of vacation time used. Even after explaining employees needed days off, because they were interviewing other places, since we're laying them off, and that I would not deny anyone time if they have it available. He tried getting me fired for this, but I had too many friends. Well, here is how the karma comes into play. I had worked closely with some corporate folks over the 2 years I was there. They found out my region was being shut down, and thought I would make a great fit in their corporate office to be in charge of operations. Operations over the Midwest region. A-holes region. I kept it quiet. I didn't make any mention of it until I showed up at his office with a clipboard and a laptop. You should have seen the confusion in his eyes. Him, are you visiting or something? Me, you could say that. Him, well, I need to make sure security knows you're here. Me, oh, they know. I just had to show them my badge. I whip out my badge and show him my picture in front of the red, white and blue flag. Only people that have a photo in front of a red, white and blue flag are corporate employees. His ass was mine, and his face showed sheer terror behind his twitching lips. I was fair to his employees, but boy did I report every rude and assholish incident that went down there. His lack of cooperation, his condescending demeanor towards his own employees. It only took a few weeks for him to pack up boxes. Apparently employees had been complaining for a long time, and it only took a little corporate push to get him out. Most satisfying moment in my working career, ever. Edit, my dad was a businessman, and always told me, always treat everyone at work with respect, because you never know who will be your boss one day. Good advice. Even during the revenge process everything was done by the books and professionally, yet deep inside I was thinking, karma is a bitch. I was working with this complete bitch at the sandwich shop where I work. She was 17. I was 18. I was telling a coworker about how my boyfriend had proposed to me, and bitch face comes up behind me and says, I bet he only proposed because the condom broke. It caused me to burst into tears, because I'd also just recently found out that there was only a 2% chance that I could have kids, and I was still very sensitive about it. After coming out of the supply room, I went in there to cry. I asked her to come out the back door with me, so I could have a word with her. I didn't want customers to hear us, because we likely would have ended up yelling. Anyway, I told her to keep her nose in her own business and blah blah blah. She decided to slap me, pretty hard, too. I didn't hit her back, because we were directly in front of a camera. So, I went inside and called my boss. He had seen it on the live feed at home, and had recorded it. He was already on his way. He came in, and dragged her out the back, and fired her. Last I heard, she was unemployed, pregnant, and stuck with some deadbeat asshole. She was unemployed, pregnant, and stuck with some deadbeat asshole. Guess the condom broke. I'm an IT consultant, and have a rep of being really competent with Microsoft Exchange Server. A couple of years ago, I bid on, but did not get a project upgrade in Exchange 2003 environment to Exchange 2010. Multiple servers, multiple sites, and right up my alley. The firm that won the bid did so by pricing it extremely low, about 40% below my price, which was on the low end to begin with. Totally unrealistic pricing, but they thought they could pull it off with their people. Their people were good generalists, but did not have a handle on Exchange 2010. I told the customer, who I'd done work for before and who I'd had a good relationship with, that it was not going to end well for them. They took it as sour grapes on my part. Fair enough. I had plenty of other things to do anyway, so I just moved on. 2 weeks after they started the implementation phase of the job, the other consulting firm ordered in. The entire email system stopped working. No mail coming in or out, no mail flowing between any of the Exchange servers, everything just dead in the water. I find this out when I get a call late one evening at my home from the other consulting company, begging me to pull them out of the fire. I told them no thanks. An hour later, the owner of the other firm is at my front door trying to convince me to help them, for the sake of the customer. This is well after dark and the conversation does not go well. He ends up screaming at me, and I slam the door, then call the cops, because I'm tired and afraid that I'll do something stupid if I continue to interact with the guy. Cops come, he loses it, they arrest him for disorderly conduct, and I have his damn car blocking mine in my driveway. I have it towed off. I had to pay for the privilege too. He spends the next 24 hours in jail, about average for getting through the Dallas County Jail, I'm told. The customer called me the following day, and I again declined to fix the mess. By this time I decided I didn't want any of that shit on me, period. The customer ends up getting Microsoft services in to fix everything, cost them about 5 times what I was going to charge, by the way. The customer sues the other consulting firm, which promptly files for bankruptcy, closes its doors rather than deal with the lawsuit. Don't know if this was instant karma or not, but it's the first time I've had the opportunity to tell this story on Reddit. My stepdad is a driving instructor. I went to get my license pretty late, 22. One day he was giving me a lesson, and we were going over one of the possible courses that the test takes. While we're driving down a street in the suburbs, a guy's tailgating the shit out of me. Really gangster looking guy. Looked pretty much exactly like Scumbag Steve now that I think about it. Sideways hat and all. Every time I come to a stop sign, I do a full stop, obviously, and he throws his hands in the air and yells shit. It's starting to stress me out, but my stepdad says, "Don't worry about it, watch this." As we're going down the street he says, "Okay, now in about 50 feet, I want you to start slowing down a little bit, and right when you are in front of that school zone, pull over to the right." So I do it. Right after I pull over, the guy who is right pissed at me now, takes off like a bullet. And about 5 seconds later, a cop steps out from behind a tree, and waves him over for going probably double the speed limit in a school zone. We laughed hard. I worked at a Kmart in high school. It was a small store, so I worked everything, electronics, stocking, cashier. You name it, I did it. I asked a woman and her son, about 12 or 13, if they needed help finding anything, as I was out on the floor, and the kid immediately bitches me out for annoying him. I ignore it, and go about my business. Right after that I get called to checkouts. As I'm working there, here comes the pair. The kid has gone all out back in the electronics area, with some EA Sports titles and a GTA game. I'm checking them out, when the age prompt comes up for the M-rated game. I decide to take a chance. I flip the game over, and inform the mother that, this game has been rated M for the following reasons, and read the list off the back of the case. There is an awkward silence, then she angrily informs me that the son said it was only a little violent. Kid wasn't able to get anything that day.